This is DZR in JWP, a discussion of topics about Danzan-ryu Jujutsu using the JWP Japanese word processor. I'm your host, Professor George Arrington. In this final video about Yawara, we're going to look at the last 5 techniques, techniques 16 through 20, of the Yawara list. And again, as I've said in other videos, Professor Okazaki used Yawara in the hiragana versus the kanji, which is pronounced Yawara, but it's more commonly pronounced as Ju, as in judo, and so he didn't want that to be confusing. So let's look at the techniques, the last 5 techniques here. Okay, so here they are, starting with the Kushu Kote Tori. So let's find out some interesting things about these kanji. All right, Akushu Kote Tori. All right. So I'm gonna convert Akushu into kanji by holding down the shift key, pressing the A, releasing the shift key, and then typing the rest of the word. So K-U-S-H-U, Akushu. Hit the space bar, and there we go. So we've got those 2 kanji. So what do they mean? Well, together, if I hit the dictionary button, it means handshake. So this is talking about a handshake. All right? And when we're talking about these Yawara techniques, these are actually done from a false handshake where somebody is grabbing your hand and trying to squeeze your hand, and then you're trying to do something to release from that. Okay, so that is Akushu. Now, if you notice here that this kanji we've seen before, which means hand, we pronounced it before as te, and it can also be pronounced as shu, and there's the katakana right there for shu, but it can also be te. In this context, it is shu. Okay, so what's this character right here all about? All right, that means to grip. That aku means to grip or to hold onto. So akushu, holding on to the hand or gripping the hand. But an interesting side note here is that it also can be pronounced as nigiru or nigiri, which means the type of sushi that is molded by hand. A piece of rice is molded into a little lump, and then they put a slice of fish on top of that, and then you eat that. So if you've been to a sushi restaurant and you order tuna nigiri or maguro nigiri, then you'll find a piece of tuna on top of a little ball of rice. Okay, and that's they make that. When they make that, they squeeze the ball of rice together, and that's called nigiri. So, anyway, interesting side note. All right, kote. The next term is kote. Kote. All righty. Well, there's the te again. There's the hand again, and here's a new character for us. But together, those 2 characters mean. If we go down here to the second line, it says kote is a noun meaning forearm. So this is the forearm, okay? And this is similar to the wrist that we talked about before, the tekubi, but it's up. I mean, it still could be called the wrist, or it could be called the forearm. Okay, so akushu kote, and then tori is the same as we have seen before. Okay, tori, and as I mentioned in the earlier videos, tori, this tori, and this tori can be interchanged. Professor Okazaki used this tori on his Yawara list, but in other places he used this tori for the same exact meaning. There's no real difference. There's no secret agenda or something like that. It's all the same. Okay? So that's tori. Okay, So the next technique, akushu ude tori. Let's write it out in hiragana. Akushu ude tori. Like that. And let's find out what that means. Well, akushu is the same. And now ude means arm. Okay, this character means arm. Let's look at that. And as you see there, arm, or ability, or talent. Okay, that's the character for arm. And one interesting thing is that a lot of the kanji for body parts include this radical here that I'm pointing to, and that radical can be the moon, or it can be written this way, which means meat, or niku. So this is the niku radical, or the meat radical, and that has to do with body parts. And a lot of body parts, not all, but a lot of the body parts use this as the radical for their kanji. Okay, so that's interesting. So that means arm. So ude means arm, and finally, again, our tori, which means a seizing or a grab. Okay. So akushu ude tori, an arm lock or an arm bar from a false handshake. Next, akushu kote maki tori. Akushu kote maki tori. And so akushu kote maki tori. Sometimes you'll hear people say this tori at the end as dori. So akushu kote maki dori. Or katate dori, or something like that. So it depends on how it's being voiced. Okay. Akushu is the same. Kote is the same. But now we have this new word, maki, M-A-K-I, and it looks like that. And it means to wind up or to coil. Let's take a look at that one. Okay, to wind up, to roll up, to coil, but it can also be a scroll, okay, or a book volume. So in this case, the kotemaki tori is a wrist or forearm winding hold. Okay, so. And let's add the tori in there. There you go. Akushu kotemaki tori, a wrist winding hold from a false handshake. So, and in Danzanru we call it a kotemaki hold. In other martial arts, like Aikido, for instance, they might call it shihonagi. So if you've had some experience in Aikido, or if you go to an Aikido class, they may call what we call in Danzanru kotemaki, they may call it shihonagi, which means four direction throw. But we won't get into that right now. So akushu kotemaki tori. Alrighty. Next, kubinuki shime. Kubinuki shime. All right. So what does this one mean? Well, kubi we saw before when we talked about tekubi, the neck of the hand. So kubi means, what does it mean? It means the neck. There it is, right there. Okay, it means neck. And then nuki means to draw out or to escape, to slip out of, to extract, to pull out, to remove, Okay, and just as a grammatical thing here, nuku would be the verb to extract, but we say nuki, an extraction, and the noun form of that. So that's why I'm leaving on the hiragana verb ending ki. So kubi nuki is neck extraction, and finally we have this term shime. And shime is a strangle or a constriction. And it can also mean here, as it shows, to wring, as like wringing out a wet towel. Okay, so strangle, constrict, or to wring. And we'll look at this one here. It says shimeru, shimeru. So that's the infinitive form of this verb, to strangle. And and so if we're just going to talk about a strangling, then it's just shime. Sometimes you'll hear it jime. Is there a difference between jime and shime? Absolutely not. It just depends on what comes before it. So could we call this kubinuki jime? Maybe. If it depends on who's saying it, I guess. So anyway, kubinuki shime, and most people would do this, and most Danzanryu schools would do this as an escape from a side headlock. Okay? So there's kubinuki shime. And then the final one in the Yawara list is hagai shime. Now the shime part is going to be the same. That's not going to change. The new term here is this hagai. So let's just boldly go and type in hagai and hit spacebar, and we get a mess. Okay, what is this stuff here? I'll go up in here and hit the dictionary, and the dictionary doesn't have that entry in there, so it doesn't know what that is. All right, so here we go, and we get into well, let's try it in just single words, ha and then gai. So let's do ha. Okay, and that means wing. Okay, that one means wing. Now, is that the correct? Let's make sure that means wing or feathers. Okay. Counter for birds or rabbits. Interesting. Okay. Is that the correct kanji? Because there are all kinds of kanji here, like what does this one mean? Okay, that's the leaf. We saw that back in Momiji. And what about this one? What does this mean? Faction or group or party or clique or sect or school. So it's hard to say unless we know what's this one. This one is this tooth, I think. Yeah, this one is tooth. And so which one is it going to be? Well, we have to really go back to the actual documents to know for sure. As I said earlier, it is really impossible to go from the romanization of Japanese to the kanji. And I didn't do this before. Let me just do this. It's really impossible to go from just the pronunciation of the word to the correct kanji, because there may be many possibilities. There isn't a one-to-one correspondence between the pronunciation and the actual characters. So let's go back to the original document and take a look at this. Now this is an excerpt from my 1992 book on Yawara, available from my website danzan.com, and this is an extract from one of the scrolls that shows the whole Yawara list, and I've zoomed in here on the term hagai shime. So this is This is ha, then hagai, and then hagai shime. Now the shime is going to be the same. I can move this over a little bit, and we can see that this character and this character are the same. It may not look exactly the same to you, but because this is handwritten over here, and this is a printed character, but indeed that is that character. But now what about hagai? All right. So first off, let's look at just that one, just that part right there. Okay. Let me move this out of the way for just a second. And let's type in ha. Okay. So can we find that? And actually, the initial one that came up was the correct one. That means feathers or wing. And so that ha is the same as that ha right there. Okay, so it's got those two things with the two dots in the center. Okay, so that's ha. All right. So now, what is this guy? What is this guy character? Okay. So I type in guy, and let's see what we get. Well, now there's the guy for gaijin or outside or hazushi that we saw in some of the earlier videos, but that's not this one. Okay, so that's the guy that we're looking for right there. Okay, what is that one? Okay, let's see if we can find it in here anywhere. And let me put it back on the screen so you can see it. And we compare those with these, and indeed it's not there. Okay. So what can we do? Well, sometimes what we can do is we can say if it's guy, it might be kai. So let's try that. All right. At the beginning, let me pull up the context here, and we can go through and we can scan through all of these and see if it is indeed that character. And it is not. Okay. So how do we find this character? Well, one strategy using JWP, which is helpful, and I'm going to erase all of those, is to use some of the tools. Like, for instance, the dictionary tool. Let's see if it appears in the dictionary. So we can type out hagai, and then do a search for that phrase, hagai. And when we do that, lo and behold, we find exactly that phrase, hagai, which is wings or a pinion, a wing pinion. That means to tie back the wings. Okay. So I'm gonna double click there, or I could have said insert into file, and put those kanji in there, like so. So why do we have so much trouble with this second character? This character and this character are the same. This one and this one are the same. Why do we have so much trouble with that character? Well, let's look at that character and see what it says. It means mixing or mingling or association or coming and going. Okay, ko. Well, that doesn't sound like guy. Okay, majiwaru, majieru, majiru. So these don't sound like guy to me. kao, kawaru, or kawasu. So sometimes you'll look at kanji and the combination of two words might not appear in your dictionary or in your kanji lookup. So that's one problem with Japanese. So this one was a difficult one to find, and but we did find it with the help of the context, the original document, which is vital, and with the help of a little technology in the dictionary here. Okay, and then we'll finish this off by saying shine. Okay, so that just illustrates the fact that it's easy to make mistakes when you're trying to figure out the kanji for Japanese words when you don't have all of the facts, or when you have when you don't have the technology to do so, or the context. So it's important to be careful when you're doing that. Too many times we say this is the meaning for this word, when in fact it's completely different. So, well, I hope you enjoyed that series on Yawara, and we'll see you in the next video.